Okay.
George Kilpatrick Inspiration for the nation, celebrating people we feel good about. Well, listen, this brother right here, celebrating people we feel good about. Ronnie Leigh, entertainer extraordinaire, songwriter, arranger, producer, all around person, 50 years in the business. And we felt like, yo, it's necessary. I got to bring Ronnie Leigh on here and talk about all that he has done in the entertainment business, in the music business, especially here in Syracuse and Central New York. Not that we feel like we got a what do you call it? Uh, I forgot what the word is, but he's our own. Even though he's been all over the world, he's our own. Born in Albany, which I didn't know. I thought you was a Stone Cold Syracusan, although you've been here long enough to be a Syracusan, but not originally from Syracuse. He's toured all over, and so this is how I found out about Ronnie Leigh, and when I became a Ronnie Leigh stan. So first of all, let me say hi to Ronnie Leigh. Let your dulcet tones grace our airwaves, and then I'll tell them how I met you.
All right. That's wonderful. Well, thank you, George. Good afternoon. And, I appreciate you having me on your show. It's a wonderful show. I love what you do for this community. I'm going to let you spend your dulcet tones. I'm ready for that too.
So back in 1980, something like that. Back in the day,
Yeah.
I was a student at Syracuse University, and I had just I was working at this place on Marshall Street called the Big Wiener. Okay, and I ended up losing that job, and I ended up getting a job at Cosmos. Now, Cosmos, for many folks that know, was a institution on Marshall Street in Syracuse for many years, and Cosmos was looking for somebody to help to make pizza. Now, I didn't know how to make pizza or anything like that, so they were opening up a second location in the Marshall Square Mall in this bar restaurant called Maggie's. And so, yes, your boy was taught how to make pizza. Yes, I was up there flipping, and I make it to this day, I'll be honestly. And I pretty much used their recipe that they taught me. So if you're looking for Cosmo Pizza, you can talk to me. But anyway, I don't know how to make this sauce though. But but anyway, so they would have Maggie's was like a nightclub kind of thing, I guess you would call it, bar restaurant. And yeah, right, because they sold pizza, and that's what I made for them. But they would have this band called Atlas Linen Company and which Atlas is still playing, but Ronnie Leigh was the lead singer. I heard this brother sing. I was like, wow, this brother is all that. And from that point on, I became a stan. So I'm working there doing my pizza. Ronnie's over there doing his thing, and the rest is history. And so I would, whenever I knew that Ronnie was playing, remember, I'm still a Syracuse University student, so getting around was, a little tough. But over the years, we've developed a relationship and a friendship. And I would go to see him at some of the venues. Some of them I don't even remember, but one of them I remember was Sue Lynn's on Erie Boulevard. I think that. How about
Yes.
that? Sue Lynn's.
Yes.
I think the building is still there. It's boarded up, but I think the building is still there. But anyway, Ronnie Leigh, I just wanted to bring you on here to celebrate your 50 years in the business. So talk to me, brother. I know that you wasn't sure you were going to be a singer full time. This didn't happen overnight. This wasn't like, I'm going to do this. You were doing some other things. How did this come about?
Oh, yeah. Well, I did a lot of different things. I'm going to back you up to when I was just a mere child going to church every Sunday.
Mm,
Okay. Which is where a lot of us begin our singing.
yes.
Okay. And from that, things progressed into me becoming, in junior high school, I sang a little bit, nothing outstanding, put together a little doo-wop group, and we were in these talent shows in schools, and I entered into a talent show in Albany when I was a kid, and I don't know what the ranking was, but as I recall, I won a $25 prize,
Okay.
and I said, "Oh man, I can do something with this," and from that point, I didn't really have any interest in performing and singing, and went on to get out of school and graduate school, and started working. I worked for the state. I worked on the New York State Canal for the Department of Transportation. My job was on a dredge at Three Rivers here in Syracuse, and learned a lot of things there, a lot of things that I can apply to my just about everyday life now. Started working in the boiler room, worked my way up to work as a deckhand, learned to splice metal and hemp lines, all of that kind of thing. Yeah, because the journey is never what people think it is. Like people see these stories on TV and feel like, oh, well, all of a sudden this guy is out there. No, this guy went through some changes to get to where he was.
Right.
So on the musical end, on paydays, I used to go to a place here in Syracuse on South Salina Street called the Thor Lounge.
Okay.
For and they had a jazz band in there, and they were working happy hours, and I would sit there, and hang out and listen, and I was into it. And one week, I got enough courage. I worked up enough courage to say to him, he was on, while the band was on break, I said, "Look, man," the guy's name was Bill Bristow. I'll never forget him. He was a wonderful person. I said, could I sit in? Would you guys would it be okay if I sit in? He said, "Sure, man." He said, "What do you want to sing?" And I said, "Well, do you guys know Misty?" I don't know what they know. He said, "Well, certainly. He says, "What key?" Now, theoretical background, I had absolutely none. So I said, "I don't know. Whatever that recording is, whatever's on that jukebox, that's fine." So they called me up when they went back up, and I sang Misty. People enjoyed it, and they wouldn't let me off the bandstand. The guy said, "Hey, man, why don't you do another song? You know another song?" I said, "Well, yeah. How about the girl from Ipanema?" Same question. What key? I said, it was on the jukebox, and they offered me a job immediately, and that was the beginning for me to.
How old were you then?
I was at that point. I was 20 years old, 19 years old.
19 years old.
19 years old, man, and the youngest guy in the band, because the next youngest guy was in his mid to late 50s or something, So I got an education there working with those guys, and it was just fabulous. I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world.
You've obviously won many awards in the Syracuse Area Music Awards, and you were also the co-founder of Jazz in the City. Back in the day, I remember when that came about, and certainly you performed at Jazz Fest with Frank Malfitano for many years. And I'm thinking about when you talk about doing Misty. Well, I think we got to get a little sample. Can you throw us a little something here?
Oh my goodness gracious, man! How do you want it? You want a ballad? You want it? You want a little up tempo piece?
You do what you.
I'm as helpless as a kitten up a tree. Feel like I'm clinging to a cloud. I can't understand. I get misty just holding your hand. Walk my way. Yeah, that.
Yeah. I'm hanging on but I mean, this is, when I think about you and I go to your performances, I see so much joy. Like, I know that you love to entertain. I call it love to entertain. How would you describe what you're doing?
I do love to entertain. I guess you could say that exactly, George. There's this gift that was given to me. I realized, and I don't know how long ago I realized it, but at some point I realized that it's not just something that you do to go out and hang out with the guys, and have a beer over here, and just all of that kind of stuff. It's not a party thing. I realized that what I saw the joy that was bringing to some people, and they would let me know about it, and I realized this is meant to be shared with everybody. This is it's just something that fulfills me. When I'm able to do that, whether there's one person in the audience, 10, 100, 1,000, 100,000, it doesn't matter. If I can just engage with one person and see the light come on in their eyes, that I'm very happy about that. It's meant to be shared, and that's what music is. And whatever performing I try to do, people have continually embraced it, and I'm grateful for that.
Did you? What is it like knowing that you've been doing this for 50 years and show no signs of slowing down? I mean, look, you got a couple of performances coming up. You'll be at the Syracuse Marriott for New Year's Eve. You got the TS Steakhouse coming up, and locally you'll be at I believe it's in Tucsone's. You'll be at Tucsone's coming up as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you're out here in these streets. Did you ever imagine that 50 years you would be doing this?
I had no idea. No idea. What I think happened to me along the way was having fun, enjoying doing it, and getting positive responses from audiences and individuals around the country and in and out of the country was really wonderful. And all of a sudden, a friend of mine who also went to Syracuse University said to me, he said, "Man, you're working with all of these bands, and that's great." He said, "But you need to work under the name of Ronnie Leigh. Let people know who you are." And from that point, I discovered that how much of a business it really was to me, and how to make that business grow. And I've continued to do that. I continually try to help things grow for myself and for the community also. So that's where that took me. Understanding that this is not just music. This is not just going out to perform and hanging out and partying or whatever you want to call it. This is, as some of the parents, some of my previous vocal students would say, well, we're really concerned about getting my son or my daughter to sing. I go, well, they need to know something about business. Study the business page every day. Take if they're on their way off to school, to college, take a small business course. Read again, as I said, read the business page every day. Find out what the fundamentals are in business. And they go, well, we're not really too concerned about that, but we are. But we want them to sing. And I go, listen, if you don't have the fundamentals on how to make a dollar, you're not going to make very many. That's all I can tell you. So that's what happened to me. I grew into that.
When did you? I mean, so have you always been a paid performer? And I say that because a lot of times when you're gifted and talented, sometimes I'm just going to sing and I'm not going to get paid for it. So how did you be clear about I'm a paid performer?
How did I make it clear that I am a paid performer?
Meaning, was there a time when you just sang anywhere and you weren't paid, and then he's like, wait a minute, from the business standpoint, this is not how I do this?
No, I didn't do that. I was fortunate enough to be involved in, when I worked prior to using my own name, when I worked with other groups, the people who were running and managing those groups made sure that we were paid.
Yeah. So
I became a customer and refused to, don't give it away.
No, I mention it because you talk about understanding the business of how this works. And sometimes folks forget that part and just sing everywhere and not remember that this is a business, and it's hard if you're always giving it away to then transition to becoming a paid performer. I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you're absolutely correct about that, because it's got to be very, very difficult. You can't work in any given marketplace and say, well, I'll do this without being paid. And then someone comes to you and says, geez, I'd like to have you come and do an event for us or whatever, or work in my club or whatever it might be. And all of a sudden you go, oh, well, I got to get, $200,000 or something like that.
Right.
And they look at you and go, wait a minute, you poured for a cup of coffee yesterday. So
right.
yeah, you have to understand your value and the marketplace at the same time,
mm-hmm.
and set your limits on what you will and will not work for and about. We very oftentimes, a lot of musicians allow people to misuse their talents, by not understanding the business, understanding that, wait a minute, I am a viable product. So why is it that I'm going to work for you for free? They pay for everything else. So everything costs. Everything will cost something, whether it's your energy or whatever it is, it's going to cost you something. It's basic physics, as a good friend of mine used to say, you give me some, I give you some back, and that's about it,
Over the years, you've obviously performed all over in the country, outside of the country. What are some of the more memorable experiences internationally that you can talk about, as well as nationally?
Well, internationally, I spent some time in Istanbul, Turkey, and loved the city. At that time, I loved the city. I probably would now. I don't know. I don't know what's happening there, but worked in a place. I went over by myself. The band was there. We had a piano player and a bassist out of Philadelphia who were there. They were already there. A drummer friend of mine out of Wilmington, Delaware, who was only there for 2 days, and then he took off. And we started working with another drummer from Brazil and a trombonist from Sweden. So that gig went on for, I don't know, I was either a month and a half, couple months maybe, and it was right on the Bosphorus, that little strait that goes, that separates the city, which is, in fact, I hope I don't digress here, but that is the only city, as far as I know, on the planet that is on 2 continents. So, yes, the Asian and the European continents is what Istanbul sits on. So anyway, it was a late night gig. We'd usually start around 11 o'clock, go to 3 or so in the morning. And the people that came in there, it was just amazing. At that time, this is how long ago it was. Johnny Cochran was in there. He came in. We met. We talked for a while. A lot of the high-end models that you see in a lot of the magazines, Elle and that sort of thing, they all visited into that place. People were coming from all over the European continent to be in that particular club. And I guess one of the highlights was meeting Mick Jagger.
Ooh.
Well, yes, it was just amazing. They had done either a 1 or 2 night stand somewhere in Istanbul and came into the club. And the club, as a matter of fact, it was an outdoor club. It was on a pier. And he came in with his drummer and seemed to enjoy themselves, and that was amazing to me. So that was definitely a highlight for me. Other things of that nature, working around the U.S., worked in quite a few places. When I was with a group called Sail out of Syracuse, And when we first got into Harrah's Club in Lake Tahoe, it was an amazing thing happened. We were working in the lounge, and they had the big showroom, which is where all the heavies were. And a woman came in and checked out our show, and she said, "I'm going to tell my husband about you guys. You guys are great." It happened to be Wayne Newton's wife. So yes, so he invited us to his show on our night off. Wanted to make sure, and he befriended the entire group, and that was an amazing time. Several things like that happened. Meeting, people like Johnny Mandel in Ohio, things of that sort. Yes,
been quite a life. Talking with Ronnie Leigh, celebrating over 50 years now in the business, singer, consummate singer, professional, and you've had an opportunity to work with some local folks. Talk about working with Frank Malfitano. What's that like? Well, what that is like.
Wow. I got to tell you, man, I don't know if people appreciate what he does. This man knows everybody in the business, and what he does here on the resources that he has to work with just amazes me. I watch him, Frank is Frank.
Yes, and I know what that means.
Yeah.
I love him.
As do I, and I see him, get really hyper stressed about trying to make the right things happen. And again, if he doesn't have the resources he needs, sometimes it's difficult, but he manages somehow to pull off the most amazing festivals.
Yeah.
Working with him is great. He wants to make sure that everybody's comfortable. He does the best he can. Again, as I said, with resources. If you need something, he'll try to make sure that you have that. The staff that work with him will make sure that it gets to you, and it gets to you on time and where it should be. The sound is amazing there. I love what he's done in the past couple years, as a matter of fact, since its reemergence. He's got this Wednesday night thing happening in the clubs. I don't know what to call it, maybe a club crawl or something like that. And bringing in some wonderful artists. And 2 years ago, I think it was, when he brought in Herbie Hancock, it just kind of, to me, that was the festival right there. Herbie, period.
I have to say, I agree with you, but I have to. There's one other pinnacle moment that I have to go back to, and that's Aretha Franklin. You know what I'm gonna say? 40,000 people at OCC. Aretha Franklin. I mean, what else you gonna do?
Well, with that said, George, I think we could probably say that there are probably a few others. You're there, Ray Charles.
Ray Charles. That was the next thing I was gonna say. Ray Charles in Clinton Square, right?
I can remember being at Long Branch Park when Dizzy Gillespie came.
Wow.
He's had some folks here. I mean, he knows these people, and it amazed me. One year we were together at an IAJE conference in Manhattan, and I'm telling you, I saw all of the people that we listened to and go, "Wow, listen to that guy." Every one of those people walked up and said, "Hey, Frank, man, I want to do your festival."
Wow.
It was just, yes. I mean, I witnessed that. So.
And yet you were part of the founding of the Jazz in the City. Talk about that.
Oh, that was a wonderful thing. I felt a need. It was modeled after the Jazzmobile.
Yes.
Okay. And kept seeing things here, and I'm going, people are using this word jazz. They keep saying jazz, but we don't have the jazz. I'm looking for the jazz. So I talked to a friend of mine one night, Frank Clark, as a matter of fact, and I said, Frank, he said, what are you doing now? So I just told him a few things. He said, what are you thinking about future wise? I said, one of the things I'm thinking about is to put together jazz performances, around the city. I don't know how to get it done. I have some ideas. I don't know if they're valid, but let's. And he said, I think I might be able to help you with that. So from that point, we figured that we wanted to have an educational component, most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So I struck out and made a connection with the Syracuse City School District and was in the schools auditioning the students in the schools for 2 or 3 months, just trying to find those who were really standout performers and musicians. Frank helped to get together some of the sponsorship money, and we did a lot of talking at the mayor's office, and questions were coming up. People were going, well, why would you want to go to Skiddy Park or wherever, And I'm saying, well, and it got to me to listen to some of the responses to those questions, and I said, you know what, this is a very valid music, this jazz. It's America's music. It's our only original art form. We need to educate people about where it comes from, why it's here, where it started, and that whole thing. And he says, yeah, but why that park, So I said, well, it's kind of like a piece of land, that if you buy a piece of land and you don't tend to the land, eventually it turns to seed. So what you're trying to tell me is that these are not valid neighborhoods, that these people in the neighborhoods are not valid. I don't understand that. I don't understand why you would even begin to say that, being an administrative person in this community.
Right.
And so from that, we started putting together, I think we started out with like a series of six events. Then we're reaching out to some of the professionals around the country to see if we could get them to come in. We were able to do that. We were able to afford it, and a lot of the in-kind sponsorship was so very, very helpful. We were closing down streets. We were and getting some of the students to work with some of those professionals.
Mm-hmm.
That to me was just such a wonderful thing, and I think we added a gospel component to our series also, which was we were in oh boy, I can't even remember the names of the parks, but we were all over the place,
and of course it continues. Yeah.
Yes.
And of course it continues today with Larry Leddinger and the CNY Jazz Arts Foundation. But there you were at the very beginning, and I was part of that a little bit. I had a little hand in it. I wasn't the founder, but I was working with Frank to do some of the publicity back in the day. Talking with Ronnie Leigh once again. It's funny because I put you in the jazz category, but do you?
Okay. All right. Wow. Very, 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 very interesting, George. A lot of people put me in the jazz category, and I soul, R&B, funk, what have you.
All right.
There are 12 notes in music,
All right.
Okay. But it all comes from starting to sing in church, man.
Yeah.
For me, that's where it's from. That's where your spirit is.
There you go.
And that's where mine is.
Come on now. I
know.
What I wanted to ask? I wanted to ask performers this because you talked about whether I'm singing to one person or you're in a stadium or you're in an arena, right? And sometimes you have to play. Ron, I want to get into your head as an artist, because sometimes you have to play and do your thing in spaces where people aren't just focused on you. And an example, I saw you perform at a thing, and you're just singing and doing your thing, and you're not not giving us 100%, even though the venue that you're singing isn't totally. We're talking, we're doing all kinds of things, and you're basically in the background. How do you? So there's two questions there. Or what's your advice to other folks who have to sing in environments like that, where the attention is not on you, and you still have to deliver 100%, even though it's you could do anything because people aren't necessarily focused on you, although you can't. There may be that one person that is, and I think about that because I was at the stage recently, Syracuse stage, and the same thing was happening. The performer was performing, but people were doing everything else, and it wasn't like a total it wasn't like a command where everything was focused on you. It was a cocktail reception, so people were just doing whatever they're doing, and yet you have to belt it out. So how do you do that, or how do you manage that kind of space?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it was a cocktail setting. So from there, uh, as a performer, and particularly as a musical performer, I have to understand what that job calls for.
Okay.
Each and every job calls for a different type of performance, but it doesn't require it doesn't mean that you perform at any uh, less level of intensity. You know, if if I'm at a cocktail reception, I understand I'm there. Basically, I'm ambiance. That's what I am. I need to understand.
Yeah.
I need to understand that, respect that, but still give everything that I have. And for me, I don't care what the day is, whether it's my best day or my worst day. Whatever the day is, you're going to get all of whatever I have.
Mm.
Okay, but you need to understand that. Okay, this is a cocktail thing. Or if you're in a friend of mine a lot of years ago was working at a casino, and I said, "How do you like it?" He says, "I can't stand it. These people don't pay attention to me." I said, "Well, you need to understand that they're not here for you. They're here. You need to understand why you're here and why they're here. If you are on the concert stage, that's a whole other story. People know why they're there, and they'll be so attentive. It'll just allow you to do almost anything you'd like. Or if you're in a dance club, those people are there. They're still not paying that much attention to you. What they're paying attention to you is the groove right for me to dance.
Mm.
So all of those things come into play. So, but again, you still need to give everything that you have in those performances. You need to understand the volume levels. You need to understand, again, why you are there and what your purpose is for that gig.
So
That's it for me.
So part of entertaining is the appreciation. So if I'm not clapping after what you just did, you understand again that that's just ambiance. But whereas if I was in a different venue and I might be standing on my feet, you get that.
Right, exactly. I just look at it and say, hey, well, okay, this is the environment that I'm working in this evening or this
Yeah.
afternoon,
Yeah. So
and that's
you, your musical influences. Who are some of the people that? Well, I'm thinking about musical influences. The other thing I was thinking about, I never heard you say formal training unless aside from church, right? Did you go to a music? Did you ever? Because you're also a piano player, so you play piano, you write, you arrange. Where does that training come from?
well, vocally, I did have some formal training.
Okay.
That I didn't do anything with it. I didn't do anything formally until I was, I'm trying to recall, George. I might have been 37, 38 years old.
Really?
That's when I got first formal training vocally.
Mm.
And I worked with a woman at Syracuse University, a woman named Diana Spradling, who took me through the entire pedagogy, man. I mean, she
Mm.
just immersed me in this stuff. And I soaked it up because I was ready for it. And the reason I started working with her was at that time, well, I'm going back to Atlas Linen Company. I was singing, but I was having difficulty singing through the entire evening because I didn't understand the mechanism. I didn't understand how to sing. I could sing, but I didn't know how. Okay, so I was becoming laryngitic in the middle of each evening. And another student from SU said to me, did you ever think of studying with anyone? I said, I would love to, but I don't know. So she recommended this Diana Spradlin. We got together, we worked together for about 4 years. I became artist in residence with her up at SU. She directed vocal jazz choir up at SU. And her husband was the director of band up there. So they both left and went to Michigan. And when they did, they were looking for someone to direct vocal jazz at SU. And Diane recommended that I be the person to do that. So I did that for about 7 or 8 years. And it was totally educational for me because I was learning on the fly, but had a great time. That was wonderful. You asked me something else, and
I was going to say, well, it's along the same lines. I want to pick up that, and it's about musical inspirations. Like, who are some of the people that,
okay.
right, that you,
yes.
But what is it? I think that's humbling, right? To recognize that I need something, or somebody to be able to receive something from someone to say, hey, you ever thought about that? And some of us might say, I don't need that. I'm Ronnie Leigh. I'm out here in these streets, and yet you recognize, I need a little something, and you got it, and that's a great thing. And I think for many of us who us, meaning the generic us, who consider ourselves artists, there's no harm in studying with someone to enhance your craft. The best do it.
Yes, absolutely. Why do athletes train as much as they do?
Right.
Okay. And we're talking about vocals here now. It's a muscular endeavor. Most definitely. You learn about muscles that you probably didn't even realize you had in your body. And that's where this training took me, taught me how to breathe. I didn't know how to breathe. I had no idea. So I learned how to breathe. I learned which muscles would help me to control. And that's the difficulty in isolating where those muscles are and beginning to feel those, so I had to learn all of that, whether they're up here in your neck area or in your chest, what not to do with your chest, or what to do with your diaphragm or the lower abs or the costals and things of that sort. All of those things are your instrument. Those are all your instrument. And then to top it off, you need to learn what this resonator is, your face, the mask in your face, and how to place a vowel so that it sounds exactly the way you would like it to, and place it correctly. And when you decide that you want to stylize and do something else, you may not use that. But if you need to, you can call on it and it will respond in an instant for you.
And of course, you still giving lessons to students?
I worked with a couple, but I got away from it because I don't feel I haven't seen enough dedication from students today.
Oh, here we go. Right. Which is what you hear from a lot of people around this. That sometimes the consistency and the dedication is missing for some.
Right. They're so diverse. Well, the younger students in particular, a parent will come and you'll get together and you'll have a little consultation. I want to find out what they are looking for, what they might even expect of me as a teacher or a coach. And I do the same with them. I want to let them know what I expect of them as a student. And so often, a parent will call you 2 or 3 weeks in and go, well, my son or daughter can't be there for 3 or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever the case may be. And I say, well, why? And they say, well, because the soccer coach won't allow them not to be at practice or something,
Right.
And I'm going, okay, well then here's my suggestion to you. You and your son or daughter sit down and figure out if you want to play soccer or if you want to learn to sing. Whichever you decide is fine, but you can't do all of these things at the same. They're playing soccer, they're doing theater, they're doing all of these things. And I'm going, well, come on, man. What do you want to do?
What do you want to do with it? And you do have to make some choices. So now that question about it, who are the people that influence you most stylistically in terms of what they do in their craft? Who are some of the all-stars in your who's on Ronnie Leigh's Mount Rushmore?
One of the first people is John Hendricks from Lambert Hendricks Ross. When I heard that group sing, man, I about lost my mind. I was about 13, 14 years old, and I heard them do a song called Cloudy. And I said, oh my goodness gracious, I gotta get that, And it was years before I even approached it, So people like that, Lou Rawls, who was, oh man, loved Lou, man. Lou's style, Lou just had this thing, man. His spirit always came right out at you. Listen to a lot of instrumentalists, always listen to Miles, always listen to Dexter Gordon. And you're asking me whether I think I'm a jazz person. I'm going through all of these jazz folks. Yeah.
Lou had a little R&B tip. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And one of my all-time favorites, Thelonious Monk. R&B. Oh man, I was listening to everybody. I was hung up on Motown. I was deep into the Motown thing. And whoever came out and sung something that had a feel that I could appreciate, I was into that person. I was into James Brown. I was all of them. You name it, I'm probably into it. The groups out of Philadelphia, the groups out of Memphis, all of those things. Otis Redding, all of those people, love that stuff. Great stuff.
You obviously, there's hobbies. You're a golfer. The club's right behind you.
No. I think you're mistaken. I have clubs.
You have clubs. Oh my God, that is funny. Nah, but I know that this is. I know you do have clubs, and I know it's part of your repertoire. Is that how you keep yourself, some motivated? I mean, golf is supposed to be the thinking person's game.
Yeah, well, it is a thinking person's game. I enjoy the game from several different perspectives. From an athletic perspective, I like the competitive perspective. And the thing that I learned and see in golf is that for me, it is probably one of the best, if not the best metaphor for life that I can think of. You can go out and play golf every day, same clubs, same golf course, but the variables are there. What's the temperature? What's the wind doing? You do not, and this is one of the things that really applies to everyday life is you hit the ball, you may strike it well, but you do not draw the same lie, which is where the ball ends up and where you have to play from. You do not draw the same lie whenever you play golf. You have to learn to manage so many adverse situations. And it will tell you a lot about yourself if you're paying attention, or about another person if you're playing with that person. It will teach you about their disposition. It will teach you about, does that person cheat in the game? So you'll learn a lot. Yeah, I mean, these are all things. Does the person what kind of temper do they have if they hit a bad shot? You see all of these things come out. You learn a lot about people. You don't have to say a word to them. So that for me, that's why I say golf is probably the best metaphor for me for life, for every day. We have to manage in that same way.
You got me thinking about something because you said people who cheat, and so it immediately made me think of the current political environment and
Oh
how
yeah, yeah,
how
oh yeah.
the there's been depending upon your perspective, there's been a renewed call for artists and people who are in the arts that this is going to be a moment, right, where the talent and the and whatever it is that we have as artists to offer, I say we, again, the generic we, to offer, that it's going to be now as important as it ever has been. And I say that because music has been the one thing that people has brought people together, and has and music from all different perspectives, right? Whether it's protest music, whatever it is, it has brought people together. And so I wonder if you think that there's any special obligation that you have, or you're just going to keep doing what you do and people will respond as they always have.
Well, yeah, I feel that, and I've been feeling this for quite some time now, that I don't want to sing about how cute the girl across the room is. I don't need to sing about that. I'm tired of that. I want to sing songs that have much, much more substance than that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to sing about our current events. I want to sing about why we do some of the things that we do. Maybe even if I'm fortunate enough, maybe I can write something that suggests that maybe if we tried this, we might be able to fix some of the things that we're, uncomfortable with today. So yeah, I think that it's very important to let people know, because not everybody's paying attention, as we know. I think it's very important to put it right out there for people. Let's talk about what's really going on. As Marvin said, what's going on? This is what's going on. Why is that going on? Can we fix what's going on? Do you want to fix what's going on?
Mm.
Are you open to listening to what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of messaging is what I'd like to get out there, but still with that nice groove.
If Ronnie, as we come to wrap, and I know there's a million other stories we could tell. Family, you're a family man, wife, mom. How's your mom doing?
My mom's doing well. She we just celebrated her 103rd birthday in October. And she's for 103 years old. I mean, she's got her ills, man. As a matter of fact, I was just with her earlier today, and she was having lunch, and we were just hanging out, laughing and joking and carrying on. And I'm really grateful that we're still able to do that. That's wonderful. My wife is here with me, and we just have a ball together. I don't know. I'm blessed to live this life, and with these two women, I'm just blessed to have them, because they take care of me when I need to be taken care of, and sometimes I don't even know when I need to be taken care of. Yeah. So I'm grateful for that.
If there's one thing you look back over this 50-year career, it's two sides of the same coin. What are you most proud of, and are there any regrets that you have?
I guess the pride that I feel is that I've done this on my own.
Mm.
When there was something that I wanted to learn, piano, for instance, or something with getting deeper into the music into the theoretical background of the things that I do. And I wanted to learn it. I said, well, I know where the books are. Let me go. I really want it. Let me go buy the books, open up the books, and find out what it's all about and see how I can apply this to what I do. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the fact that I've been able to maintain a career just doing music, make a living. That's all I do. That's all I intend to do. If it's not music related, I'm really not interested. So I've made it a point to do that, and I'm very proud that I'm able to live the way I do from approaching things in that fashion. Is there anything that I regret about my career? I don't regret one moment of it. If there's anything that I could say, I wish I could have done better, or could and still can do better, and that is to be a little more aggressive on the business side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking about one of your good buddies from back in the day, Larry Arlotta, and the stuff that you
Oh,
got. I didn't want to have
yes,
this interview go without you mentioning Larry's name. So whatever you want to say about
yes.
Larry.
Well, Larry, I love Larry. I miss Larry so much. Larry is probably the primary reason I do what I do musically, whether it's play piano or sing.
Mm.
Larry was such what a talent he was. What a great friend. Larry left me his piano when he
Really?
passed. Yes. And he said to me, he said, man, you learn piano. You can do this. And he told me, he gave me the title of a book to work from, an exercise book. So I went and I bought this book.
And at the
And I
time,
opened
you
it
didn't know
up.
piano? You didn't play at that time?
No, I didn't.
Wow.
No. And so opened up the book and I started working on these lessons. And well, I shouldn't say these lessons. On the first lesson is what I
Right.
did, and it just wasn't for me. So I closed the book. I still have it. It's on my bookshelf now, and I didn't do it. But I went out and I bought a book called the Piano Chord Dictionary that spelled out the chords for you, showed you how to make a certain chord. And I remember the first chord I played, I'll never forget it, man. It was an F-7 chord, which some people will understand what that is and some won't. But when I heard it and I listened to it and I go, oh, I've been hearing that my whole life. That's what that is. And from there, I started learning all these chords, didn't know what to do with them, and I just stayed at it and worked at that. Vocally, Larry said to a guy one day, we were doing some private gig somewhere. I don't recall where it was, but the guy came up and said, oh man, that singing you got is pretty good, man. And then somebody else came up and said, man, that cat can blow, man. Larry said, where you been, man? He's been singing like that his whole life, man. that's him.
Well, and we're blessed that you called Central New York home. Let me just give folks a couple of dates. Friday, December 6th, that's coming up. You'll be at the Fireside by the River. On Tuesday, the 10th of December, you'll be at the Tesson's Wine Garden. And then you'll be at TS Steakhouse, which you do a lot of, from 6 to 10
Yes.
on Saturday the 14th at the Turning Stone. And got a couple other gigs, but I want to let everybody know that you will be featured performer at the New Year's Eve 2024 at the Marriott Syracuse downtown and a couple of other places in between. This brother's out here. Anything you want to say before we say goodbye for now?
Yes, I would like to add a couple of other things to you. Prior to its demise, I worked I don't know how many years doing pops with the Syracuse Symphony Orchestra.
Yes, yes, yes.
I recorded a show with them, and that was on CD, and I think it did well. So now, a couple of years ago, right when COVID hit, I think the orchestra was called
Symphoria.
Symphoria. Thank you very much. Yes,
I'm on the
yes.
board. That's why I know this.
Yes,
And now,
yes, you know.
now it's called the Syracuse Orchestra. But we'll go back to
Yes,
Symphoria for the moment. Yes.
yes. So they called me and wanted me to do Christmas pops with them, and it was difficult. We had a tough time. It was okay, but it didn't work out the way any of us wanted it to.
Right. Right.
So now, just recently, I got a call. So in 2025, I will be doing a show with the Syracuse Orchestra in late February. I've forgotten what the date will be, and I will do Christmas Pops next December, also with them. So, and this will be taking place at the Civic Center. So, I'm looking forward to that, and I hope people will be in attendance for that. Those are going to be wonderful shows.
Well, I know I'm going to be there. I know I'm going to be there with Ronnie Leigh, over 50 years in the business. Last thing I'll ask you, your advice to somebody just breaking in the business.
Get a little business foundation under you.
Yeah.
If you haven't had any coaching or training, you should get some. Find out what it is. Find out where you're lacking. Find out your weaknesses. There's nothing wrong, because we all have them, and you're going to have them. Find out about that stuff and move forward. Don't let anybody use you to work for nothing. You are a product.
There you go. With that being said, one of the best products that we have produced, well, Albany and Syracuse has produced, is Ronnie Leigh, master vocalist, extraordinary entertainer. And I'm proud to say, I'd like to say Ronnie Leigh is a friend. And I do appreciate all that you've done. and many 50 years more, brother. 50 years more. How about that? Love to you and your family, to mom and everybody. All right.
George, great being with you, man. I hope you have great holidays too.
Thank you. Great holidays to you. And I gave you some dates. Just check out Ronnie Leigh wherever he's going to be. It's always a good show, no matter where he is. George Kilpatrick Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about, like Ronnie Leigh.